Center court, one of the most prestigious stages in all of sports, rose to its feet. Thousands of spectators applauded not because they had just witnessed a champion lifting a trophy but because they had watched the arrival of a new star. As Alex Eala walked toward the net after a heartbreaking defeat, the cheers refused to fade. Every step she took was met with louder applause, a powerful acknowledgement that something special had happened. Over the previous 2 weeks she had lost the match, but she had won something far greater: respect, recognition, and the belief of tennis fans around the world that a new era had begun. For generations, Wimbledon has celebrated legends. Champions have built their legacies on its perfectly trimmed grass courts. The tournament has seen unforgettable victories, emotional farewells, and history-making performances. Yet every so often, center court embraces a player who may not leave with the title but leaves with something equally meaningful: the admiration of the tennis world. This was one of those rare moments. Alex Eala arrived in London carrying the hopes of an entire nation. Tennis fans in the Philippines had followed her journey since childhood, watching her transform from a promising junior into one of the brightest young professionals on the WTA tour. Those who had tracked her career knew she possessed exceptional talent, remarkable composure, and an unwavering work ethic, but few could have predicted just how extraordinary her Wimbledon campaign would become. By the time she stepped onto center court for the biggest match of her career, millions of people across different continents were paying attention. What happened next changed everything. This wasn't simply another tournament run, it became a statement that Alex Eala belonged among the world's elite. Welcome to Tennis Diaries. Today we revisit one of the most emotional stories of Wimbledon, a journey that ended in defeat on the scoreboard but concluded with one of the loudest standing ovations of the tournament. It's the story of determination, resilience, belief, and a young athlete who proved that greatness isn't measured only by trophies. Sometimes history remembers courage even more than victory. To understand why this Wimbledon run meant so much, it's important to look back at the path that brought Alex Eala to this stage. Long before the international spotlight found her, Eala was already making waves in junior tennis. Born in the Philippines, she quickly established herself as one of the country's most exciting sporting prospects. While tennis has produced remarkable athletes from many nations, the Philippines had rarely been represented at the highest levels of the women's game. In the modern era, Eala dreamed of changing that. Recognizing her immense potential, she continued her development at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, where she trained alongside talented players from around the world. The academy's demanding environment emphasized discipline, consistency, and mental toughness, qualities that gradually became defining features of Eala's game. Every training session challenged her to improve. Every tournament offered another lesson. Every setback became another opportunity to grow. Progress in professional tennis is rarely straightforward. Players face constant travel, changing surfaces, physical exhaustion, and fierce competition. Almost every week of the season, rankings fluctuate, confidence rises and falls, and success often depends on maintaining belief through difficult stretches. Eala experienced all of it. She celebrated breakthrough victories. She learned from painful defeats. She adjusted to the speed and intensity of competing against experienced professionals. Instead of allowing disappointments to slow her progress, she treated them as valuable experience. That mindset gradually transformed her into a more complete competitor. By the time Wimbledon arrived, those who followed women's tennis knew Eala had become increasingly dangerous. Her movement had improved dramatically. Her shot selection had become more mature. She showed greater patience during long rallies while maintaining the fearless aggression that made her exciting to watch. Most importantly, she no longer appeared intimidated by higher-ranked opponents. She believed she belonged, that confidence would soon be tested on the sport's most famous grass courts. Grass has always presented unique challenges. Unlike clay or hard courts, the surface rewards quick reactions, precise footwork, and the ability to adapt instantly to lower, faster bounces. Players who struggle to adjust often see their games unravel in a matter of minutes. For young competitors, Wimbledon can feel overwhelming. The traditions, the history, the pressure, the expectations, everything about the tournament reminds players they are competing where legends have made history. Many promising talents need years before feeling comfortable on these courts. Eala approached the challenge differently. She embraced it. Instead of being overwhelmed by the occasion, she focused on one match at a time. Every victory increased her confidence. Every successful performance attracted more attention from tennis fans, broadcasters, and analysts. Soon people who had never watched Alex Eala before were asking the same question: who is this young player from the Philippines? The answer became clearer with every round. She wasn't relying on luck. She wasn't benefiting from favorable circumstances. She was earning every victory through intelligent tennis' relentless defense, and remarkable composure under pressure. Commentators praised her maturity, former players admired her court awareness, fans appreciated her fighting spirit. Her matches quickly became must-watch events as momentum continued to build. Something even more remarkable happened. Supporters from the Philippines began making their presence felt throughout the grounds at Wimbledon. Flags appeared in the stands, chants echoed between points, social media filled with messages of encouragement from fans celebrating every milestone she achieved. The excitement extended far beyond London. Back home, people adjusted their schedules to watch her matches live. Despite difficult time differences, sports programs dedicated extra coverage to her performances. Newspapers highlighted her achievements. Young tennis players found themselves inspired by someone proving that dreams once considered impossible could become reality. The atmosphere surrounding Eala continued to grow with every passing day. The expectations became larger, yet she never appeared distracted. She remained focused on the next challenge. That focus would soon produce one of the biggest victories of the entire tournament. A match that would capture headlines around the world. A performance that announced Alex Eala as one of the brightest young stars in women's tennis, and a moment that ensured center court would remember her long after the tournament had ended. But with greater success comes greater pressure. Every opponent studies your strengths. Every match becomes more demanding. Every victory raises expectations even higher. The deeper Eala advanced into Wimbledon, the more intense the spotlight became. The question was no longer whether she could compete. The question had become something much bigger. Could this remarkable run continue? No one yet knew the answer, but one thing had already become undeniable. Regardless of what happened next, Alex Eala had already changed the conversation about Philippine tennis forever. Momentum is one of the most fascinating forces in professional tennis. It cannot be measured on a scoreboard. It doesn't appear in rankings or statistics, yet every player understands when momentum begins to build, confidence grows with every successful point. Decisions become clearer, movement becomes more natural even under pressure. Belief replaces doubt. By the middle of her Wimbledon campaign, Alex Eala had reached exactly that point. She was no longer playing simply to survive another round, she was playing to win, and the entire tennis world was beginning to notice. Each victory brought another wave of attention. Television analysts started discussing her tactical maturity. Journalists highlighted her fearless approach against experienced opponents. Fans who had never followed her career before suddenly found themselves searching for her previous matches and learning more about the young Filipina making headlines at the All England club. What impressed observers wasn't just the results, it was the way she competed. Eala never looked overwhelmed by the occasion. She accepted long rallies, absorbed pressure, and waited patiently for the right opportunity to attack rather than trying to force spectacular winners on every point. She trusted her movement, her consistency, and her ability to build rallies with intelligence. That discipline is often what separates promising young talents from future champions. Many gifted players possess powerful strokes, far fewer possess the patience to use them wisely. Throughout the tournament, Eala demonstrated both. As her confidence continued to rise, so did the level of competition. Standing across the net, every round at Wimbledon presents a different challenge. Every opponent asks different tactical questions. Some attack relentlessly, others defend with incredible resilience. Some rely on heavy serves while others attempt to control rallies from the baseline. Eala adapted each time. Instead of trying to play the same match over and over again, she adjusted her strategy according to the opponent in front of her. That flexibility became one of the defining characteristics of her tournament. Her court coverage remained exceptional. Her anticipation improved with every match. Perhaps most importantly, she refused to panic when momentum briefly shifted against her. That composure would soon become essential because waiting ahead was one of the biggest challenges imaginable. A meeting with one of the most accomplished players in women's tennis, a player who had already established herself among the elite, a player many believed would continue her march through the tournament. For Alex Eala, this wasn't simply another match, it was an opportunity to prove she truly belonged on one of tennis' biggest stages. From the moment the draw produced the matchup, anticipation began to build. Could the young Filipina continue her remarkable run, or would experience finally bring her dream to an end? Across social media, opinions were divided. Some believed Eala had already exceeded expectations, others argued she had nothing to lose and could play freely. A growing number of supporters believed something extraordinary might happen inside the locker room. However, outside predictions meant very little. Professional athletes understand that reputations do not win points. Matches begin at love all. Every rally must be earned. When Eala stepped onto center court to face Iga Swiatek, she carried the hopes of countless supporters, but she also carried something equally important: belief, not blind optimism, not unrealistic confidence, a quiet belief built through years of disciplined training and reinforced by every victory she had earned during the tournament. From the opening games it became clear that she had no intention of simply admiring the occasion. She attacked when opportunities appeared. She defended with remarkable determination. She stayed committed to her game plan even when rallies became physically demanding. 1 point turned into 2 games became 3. Then suddenly everyone inside the stadium realized something remarkable. This wasn't unfolding according to expectations. The favorite was being pushed harder and harder. Commentators began changing the tone of their analysis. Instead of discussing how long the underdog could stay competitive, they started asking whether an upset might actually be possible. Every successful rally from Eala generated louder applause. Every composed service game increased her confidence. The pressure slowly shifted. Instead of resting entirely on the shoulders of the rising star, expectations now surrounded her opponent. That is one of the unique psychological battles in tennis. Momentum doesn't simply affect the player winning points, it affects both competitors. When an underdog refuses to fade away, even experienced champions must confront uncertainty. Eala sensed that opportunity. She continued trusting the style of tennis that had carried her this far. She refused to rush. She refused to abandon patience. She refused to let the occasion become bigger than the match itself. Point by point, game by game, she continued, applying pressure as the contest progressed. The atmosphere inside center court transformed. Neutral spectators gradually found themselves cheering for the fearless newcomer. The excitement became impossible to ignore. Every spectacular rally produced louder reactions. Every courageous shot drew admiration. The audience recognized they were witnessing something special. When the final point arrived, history had been made. Alex Eala had defeated one of the biggest names in women's tennis. The result sent shockwaves through Wimbledon. Within minutes, headlines began appearing around the world. The victory wasn't described as fortunate. It wasn't dismissed as a fluke. It was recognized as one of the defining performances of the tournament for tennis fans in the Philippines. The celebration was immediate. Television coverage expanded. News organizations across the country highlighted the achievement. Social media exploded with congratulations from athletes, celebrities, journalists, and supporters who understood the significance of what had just happened. Young players training at local tennis clubs suddenly had a powerful new role model. Parents watching from home saw proof that international success was possible. For many, this wasn't only Alex Eala's victory, it felt like a victory for Philippine tennis itself. Around the tennis world, respect for Eala grew dramatically. Players praised her composure, analysts applauded her tactical discipline, former professionals noted how mature her decision-making had become. Despite her young age, her Wimbledon campaign was no longer viewed as a surprise story. It had become one of the tournament's defining narratives. But elite tennis has a way of moving quickly. Celebration is brief, recovery is essential. Another challenge always waits. There was little time to reflect on the magnitude of defeating Swiatek because the next obstacle was already approaching. Standing between Eala and an even deeper Wimbledon run was Jasmine Paolini. Unlike some opponents who rely on overwhelming power, Paolini brings relentless energy, exceptional movement, and remarkable competitive spirit to every match. She had already proven she could thrive on grass and possessed the experience required to handle the enormous pressure of Grand Slam competition. This would demand another outstanding performance, perhaps an even better one. By now, expectations had completely changed. Earlier in the tournament, simply winning a match had been celebrated. Now people were asking whether Alex Eala could reach another historic milestone. Television previews focused heavily on her confidence. Experts analyzed tactical possibilities. Fans eagerly anticipated another unforgettable performance. Yet inside Eala's camp, the message remained simple: forget the headlines, forget the predictions, forget the growing attention, focus on the next point, the next game, the next opportunity. That mindset had brought her this far. It would need to carry her one more time. Waiting ahead was the biggest emotional test of her remarkable Wimbledon journey, a match filled with momentum swings, a battle that would stretch her physically and mentally, a contest that would end her dream of lifting the Wimbledon trophy, but begin something perhaps even more meaningful. Because although Alex Eala's tournament would soon come to an end, the reaction inside center court would ensure that this Wimbledon campaign would be remembered long after the final ball was struck. There are defeats that disappear into the record books, and then there are defeats that become part of a player's legend. For Alex Eala, her fourth-round meeting with Jasmine Paolini was never going to be defined solely by the final score. It became a showcase of courage, resilience, and maturity against one of the most accomplished players in women's tennis. Standing across the net was a competitor who knew exactly what it took to succeed on grass. Jasmine Paolini had already proven herself on the biggest stages, and her experience in Grand Slam competition made her one of the tournament's most dangerous players. For Eala, this was unfamiliar territory. It was the biggest match of her Wimbledon career. The stakes were enormous. A place in the quarterfinals, another piece of history, another opportunity to prove that her remarkable run was no accident. As the players walked onto center court, the atmosphere was unlike anything Eala had experienced before. The applause was immediate. Filipino flags were scattered throughout the stands. Neutral spectators who had followed her journey during the previous rounds were eager to see whether the young star could produce another unforgettable performance. From the opening games, it was clear that neither player intended to give anything away easily. Paolini started with the confidence of an experienced contender. She attacked short balls, used her movement brilliantly, and consistently found angles that forced Eala to defend from uncomfortable positions. But Eala refused to be overwhelmed. Every time Paolini increased the pressure, Eala answered with remarkable composure. Long rallies developed across the baseline. Neither player wanted to blink first. The match quickly evolved into a battle of patience as much as power. Paolini's experience allowed her to capitalize on a handful of critical moments during the opening set. She protected her serve under pressure and converted the opportunities that mattered most. The scoreboard showed 64-1 set to the Italian, yet anyone watching closely understood that the numbers told only part of the story. Eala had not been outclassed. She had competed. She had challenged. She had shown that she belonged on center court. As she sat during the changeover, there was no sign of panic, no visible frustration, only quiet determination. That calm mindset has become one of the defining characteristics of her young career. Many players allow a lost set to affect the next one. Eala chose a different path. She reset mentally. She trusted the game that had carried her to the fourth round. The second set produced some of the highest quality tennis of the afternoon. Eala began striking the ball with even greater conviction. Her footwork became more assertive, allowing her to step inside the baseline whenever opportunities appeared. Her returns placed increasing pressure on Paolini's service games. Every successful point generated louder cheers from the crowd. Center court sensed that the match was changing. Momentum in tennis is fragile. Sometimes it shifts because of one spectacular winner, sometimes it changes because a player simply refuses to stop fighting. That was exactly what Eala demonstrated game after game. She matched one of the tour's most experienced competitors. She chased every ball. She absorbed pressure. She responded with fearless shot-making whenever the moment demanded it. Eventually the breakthrough arrived. Eala captured the second set 64. The match was level. One set each. Center court erupted. The applause echoed around the stadium as fans recognized the extraordinary resilience of the 21-year-old Filipino. What had begun as another fourth-round contest had transformed into one of the most captivating matches of the tournament. Everything would now be decided in a single set. The final chapter, the decisive 20 or 30 minutes that often define Grand Slam careers. Both players understood the significance. Every serve carried greater pressure. Every return demanded complete concentration. Every unforced error became more costly. The opening games of the deciding set were fiercely contested. Neither player wanted to surrender momentum. Paolini relied on years of experience, choosing the right moments to attack while limiting unnecessary risks. Eala continued playing with courage, refusing to retreat despite the magnitude of the occasion. The rallies grew longer. The physical demands increased. Both competitors pushed each other to extraordinary levels. Then came the moments that often separate victory from defeat. Paolini found another level. Her timing became even sharper. She struck with greater authority when the biggest points arrived. Rather than allowing Eala to dictate rallies, she seized control, forcing the young Filipina into increasingly difficult defensive positions. Experience began to make the difference. Eala never stopped believing. She continued chasing every ball. She continued searching for an opening. She continued fighting until the very last point. But Grand Slam tennis is unforgiving against opponents of Paolini's quality. Even the smallest lapse can prove decisive. After more than 2 hours of world-class tennis, Paolini finally crossed the finish line, winning the deciding set 63 and booking her place in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. For a brief moment, silence settled over center court. Then something remarkable happened. The spectators stood one section after another. Thousands of fans rose to their feet. The applause continued long after the final handshake. It wasn't sympathy, it was admiration. The Wimbledon crowd understood exactly what they had witnessed. Alex Eala had arrived not merely as a promising young player but as a genuine force capable of competing with the very best in the sport. As she acknowledged the crowd, emotion was written across her face. She had fallen short of the quarterfinals, yet she had earned something that cannot be measured by rankings or trophies. She had earned the respect of center court, and at Wimbledon there are few honors more meaningful. As the applause continued around center court, Alex Eala paused for one final look at the stadium. Moments earlier, the dream of reaching the Wimbledon quarterfinals had slipped away. The scoreboard belonged to Jasmine Paolini. The official result would forever record a hard-fought 3-set victory for the Italian, but scoreboards only tell part of the story. What they cannot capture is the feeling inside a stadium. They cannot measure respect. They cannot explain why thousands of people remained on their feet applauding a player who had just been defeated. That afternoon, Wimbledon recognized something far greater than the outcome of a single match. It recognized the arrival of a remarkable young talent. For years, Alex Eala had worked quietly far from the brightest lights of professional tennis. She trained relentlessly, traveled across continents, adjusted to different surfaces, and learned valuable lessons through victories and disappointments alike. Every practice session, every difficult loss, and every sacrifice had gradually prepared her for this moment. Wimbledon did not create Alex Eala, it introduced her to a much larger audience. Throughout the tournament, she displayed qualities that statistics alone cannot fully describe. She showed patience under pressure. She competed with intelligence rather than panic. She refused to become intimidated by reputation or rankings, and perhaps most importantly, she demonstrated the kind of resilience that every champion must possess. Those characteristics are not developed overnight, they are built through years of dedication. For tennis analysts, Eala's Wimbledon campaign offered encouraging signs about her future. Her movement on grass improved noticeably with each match. Her ability to extend rallies against elite opponents reflected growing confidence in her physical conditioning. Her shot selection became increasingly mature as the tournament progressed, allowing her to balance aggressive play with disciplined decision-making. Just as significant was her composure. Grand Slam tournaments test far more than technical ability, they test emotional control. Every match brings heightened expectations, larger crowds, and greater media attention. Young players often struggle to manage those pressures while maintaining their usual level of performance. Eala embraced the challenge rather than allowing the occasion to overwhelm her. She remained committed to her game plan even in the most demanding moments. Against Jasmine Paolini, she continued competing with remarkable determination. That mentality is one reason many observers believe her best years are still ahead. Of course, progress in professional tennis is rarely linear. Every breakthrough creates new expectations. Every successful tournament brings stronger opponents who study your strengths and search for weaknesses. Remaining among the world's elite requires constant improvement. Alex Eala understands that reality. One impressive Wimbledon run does not guarantee future success. What it does provide is belief that she can compete on the biggest courts, belief that she can challenge some of the finest players in the world, belief that the distance between potential and achievement continues to grow smaller. Back home in the Philippines, her performance carried an importance that extended far beyond tennis. Young athletes watched history unfold. Families stayed awake through the night to follow every point. Children picked up rackets dreaming that one day they might compete on the same legendary courts. Inspiring the next generation is one of sport's greatest achievements. Championships matter, records matter, but inspiring future athletes may leave an even more lasting legacy. That is exactly what Alex Eala accomplished during these unforgettable 2 weeks at Wimbledon. Her journey also reminded the sporting world that tennis continues to grow beyond its traditional powerhouses. Talented players now emerge from every corner of the globe, bringing new stories, new cultures, and new generations of supporters into the sport. Eala represents that exciting evolution. She carries the hopes of a nation while embracing the challenge of competing against the very best. Her success demonstrates that determination, world-class coaching, and relentless commitment can open doors once considered unreachable. As the season continues, new tournaments will arrive, new challenges will appear. Some weeks will bring victory, others will bring disappointment. That is the rhythm of professional tennis, but certain moments remain unforgettable regardless of what follows. The standing ovation at Wimbledon has already become one of those moments. Years from now, fans may not immediately remember every point that was played, they may not recall every game or every statistic. What they are likely to remember is the image of a young Filipino walking off center court while thousands of spectators rose to celebrate her extraordinary effort. It was a reminder that greatness is not always measured by trophies, sometimes it is measured by the respect earned from opponents, the admiration of fans, and the belief that the future holds even greater possibilities. For Alex Eala, Wimbledon ended in defeat, but in many ways it also marked the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with higher expectations, greater opportunities, and the confidence that she belongs among the best players in the world. At this remarkable Wimbledon campaign is any indication, tennis fans have only witnessed the first pages of what promises to be an extraordinary career. Thank you for watching Tennis Diaries. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments about Alex Eala's inspiring Wimbledon journey, and subscribe for more in-depth tennis stories, match analysis, and documentaries covering the biggest moments in the sport.